Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Messy Conversations. That was a musical intro as requested by our conversationalists today to set the tone for the day. We're really glad to have you. Couple of quick announcements, and then I'm going to get out of the way, hand things off to Anna Kwong to introduce our conversationalist. A reminder that to keep yourself muted unless you're joining the conversation. Please put questions, comments, things you're wondering about in the chat, and we will get to you in short order and extend our conversation through you. And come back next Monday. Next Monday will be mid-May, May 15th. And we have Rosa Garza Marino and Tanji Vey, who will be joining us to talk about the work of Gloria Anzaldúa. It's actually the anniversary of Gloria Anzaldúa's death next Monday. So that should be a fantastic, I've been waiting for this all quarter long. Can't wait. So please come back and join us. Bring a friend. And this week we are in celebration of Asian Heritage Month, the month of May, and we've got a terrific panelist of Antioch students who are coming together to be in conversation about their experience with the Antioch community as Asian American AAPI students. So let me hand it off to Anna.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're joining us from. I am given the honor to introduce this very special group. Needless to say, we are overjoyed to have this group of AAPI students as our conversationalists today. And the topic is the messiness of AAPI. So good to have this wonderful group. Christina Sumi Nakajima is a queer second-generation Japanese American. Currently, she's wrapping up her undergraduate career with hopes of moving on to Antioch University's MAP program in fall, year 2023. Christina is committed to claiming her education and has found empowerment by learning from radical thinkers and activists who focus their efforts towards liberation. As a supporter of prison abolition and transformative justice, Christina plans to earn a master in psychology and hope to ground her therapeutic work in grassroots community building. Second one is Nabi Supetran. I practiced a couple of times, but then now when it comes to the real, I didn't get the real one. Okay. Well, Nabi, you probably know her. She's actually one of us. She's one of the part of the Messy Conversation organizing committee. She is a 1.5 generation Filipino American born in Saipan, a US territory. She lived in Saipan and the Philippines and then moved to mainland America when she was 19. She received her bachelor degree in liberal studies, counseling and psychology at Antioch, Seattle. Currently, she's pursuing her master degree in couple and family therapy. As a therapist in training, Nabi hopes to help her future clients acknowledge that they have a voice to help them express who they are, what they need, and on how they can effectively navigate their daily lives while being mindful of their intersectionality within a systemic lens. Last but not least, we have Emma Lee. Emma is an Antioch, Seattle student studying the couple and family therapy program. She's a first-generation Korean immigrant and has lived in Washington State for about 20 years. From starting her life in the States as an international student to building her own family here, it has been quite a journey for her. Emma loves learning to understand herself and the people around her. Her focus of interest revolves around trauma recovery and neurodiversity. So with no further ado, join me to welcome Christina, Nabi, and Emma.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here, and I'm just grateful to be part of this Antioch community of folks who have taught me so much about myself and about the things that matter to me. This is a long anticipated panel, I think, and we are really glad to share the messiness that is AAPI. We all relate to that term very differently. And so we're just glad that you'll be here to experience that messiness with us. We also just wanted to acknowledge that, as this is a panel, we are lacking in a little diversity in terms of the representation that's here. I'm Japanese, and I think the goal is to just open the door to this conversation. Obviously, it's one that's been had for generations before us and hopefully for generations to come. But, we're just trying to navigate this as best we can. So thank you for your grace and your patience.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Christina, for starting off that message of that, acknowledging that, not everybody who falls under the AAPI community are present here today. And we would like to invite whoever, if you know somebody who would like to be part of the panel and the discussion so that we can also hear their perspective on their experiences as an AAPI member, and also just their experience as a student here at Antioch, or anything they'd like to share. So feel free to reach out.
Right now, my heart is pounding. So I thought I'm going to be okay, but somehow my heart says different story. But I want to say that I'm really honored, and at the same time, I feel really humbled, as Christina and Nabi shared. Even though this presentation and conversation is around AAPI group, we are not representing like a whole variety of different groups that included in that word. For example, like people from Thailand or Vietnam. So yeah, I really feel humbled, and hopefully I can be some of the reflection of like my people, Korean first generation immigrants. But at the same time, it is the conversation happening here is like our experience too. Even though we are Filipino American, Japanese American, and Korean immigrant, we are not total representation of that group as well. So yeah, we want to put that out there. And we've been talking about what we are not like totally represent. However, now we want to turn the conversation a little bit and want to talk about how we can be a little bit of a small reflection of where we came from. So I want to talk about like how we identify ourselves ethnically and culturally, and what that identity means to us. So do you guys want me to go first? Or Nabi, do you want to go first? Should I go first? Okay. I identify as a Korean immigrant, not necessarily Asian American or Korean American. And I think that identity positioned me quite different from the people who identify as like Asian American or any country in American, Japanese American or Filipino American. As an immigrant, I kind of expect there will be difficulty, and there will be some rejection. And I kind of expect that I'm not going to be fully accepted. And even though it sounds sad, but that's okay for me, because when I decided to move to the state, kind of I was expecting that. So probably how I feel about those like discrimination or rejection or not being fully accepted will be a bit different from people who identify as like Chinese American or Vietnamese American, whose identity kind of stand between like two worlds completely. But for me, I'm very clear that I'm Korean, and it was my choice to come over to this country, which is I love, and then make my life here. Even though I wasn't sure that I'm gonna leave this long here. But anyway, yeah, so my position with my identity as a Korean immigrant can be a little bit different from Nabi or Christina here today. How about you, Christina?
Thank you, Emma, for sharing that. I really appreciate you acknowledging like the tension that comes with being considered on anything other than what you identify. So the fact that you identify as Korean and that in the States you might be addressed as Korean American, that is something that tension is something that I've found myself grappling with forever. I think especially having grown up in the States and having an understanding of the history of identity and things like race and ethnicity, for me, I think it's very much a struggle between assimilating and holding on to what makes me uniquely me. And I think when you're living in a country that's founded on, I'm going to bring in the lens of CRT here, critical race theory, just to acknowledge that, you know, race exists here as a result of European colonizing, you know, colonialism, sorry. And as a result of that, I think being considered Asian or being considered anything that's a deviation from, you know, white cis men is a burden because of the history that it carries. And so I think anybody who is considered other bears that burden of race, of gender, of ethnicity. And so for myself, I'm often torn between, you know, going by what has been assigned to me, which is like, if you look at me, I'm Asian, but I also know that I'm Japanese. And I also know that the way I relate to that is very different. And so it's just such a nuanced experience. And so I appreciate you shedding light on that, because there's not one way of being referred to or identified that ever feels completely in sync with who I am. But I also know that, you know, living in a country that's founded on these ideals, I'm grouped into a category of folks who look like me or who come from the same continent. And so to claim that word for myself is to acknowledge that I'm one of many who bear that burden. And also I want to fight any kind of label that I'm given as well. So, you know, there's definitely nuance there. But Nabi, what are your feelings on that?
Thank you both for sharing. And as I listened to you, Christina, you know, the words other and label was stood out to me. Being othered has made me become part of the group that I identify with, and that comes with the label. And so I identify as Filipino American, and sometimes I would interchange it with Asian American and Filipino American. Growing up, I mean, as Anna has mentioned earlier, I grew up in the Philippines and in Saipan. And although Saipan is a U.S. territory, I was surrounded with a lot of Filipinos and Pacific Islanders who really share that collective culture. And so I always felt included. And when I moved here in mainland America for college, it was very obvious that I was different with my other peers. I went to a community college and then later moved here in to Antioch, and in many of my classes, you know, sometimes it would just be me who is a person of color, or there would be another person. And I always viewed myself as a Filipino. And as I continue to live here, you know, I hear Filipino American, Asian American, and I'm like, what is that? You know, as I try to like look more into it, it's for me now, I like, long story short, that it's a community that identifies from being from Asia or being from Philippines. And that's where I found relatedness to, and that now I identify myself as Filipino American. And recognizing that has been a lot for me, because coming from a collectivist culture, having under the Filipino identity and being an American where it's an individualistic culture, there's like kind of like clash on those identities that I have. So there's definitely a lot of struggles that comes with it for me. And so thank you, Emma, Christina, for sharing your perspectives on that, and for hearing my response to it as well. And as we talk about our identities, I'm curious about how do each of you manage or balance your different ethnic and cultural heritage and the American part of yourself in your present life right now?
Can I go?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Wow, thank you for sharing like your experiences, Christina and Nabi. To be honest, for me, it is a little bit maybe easier for you guys, because it's clear for me like what to take and then what to reject when it comes to the difference of culture. Like I can see the difference very clearly because I grew up most of my life in Korea. But like I cannot imagine you guys living like between or living two cultures at the same time. Like it must be really hard. So thank you for sharing you guys' struggling and then experiences. I think the only time that I feel the struggle is maybe I want to be, how can I say, like being included to the like main culture, main like gathering or event or whatever that is culturally different from my own. But when I feel some kind of wall or my limitation to do that, then I feel that struggle. But rather than that, I am pretty clear about the differences and then about the choices that I can make. But I think when it came to my son, who is born in here, I think will be more struggling for him. And then I see a lot of it. Sometimes he comes from school, and then sometimes he wants to use his Korean name in school. The other day, he doesn't want to like hide his Korean name in the school. So I already witnessed the struggle in him. So I try not to like push what is clear to him, but let him explore and then try to make it fun for him to make that choices. But definitely, I think it's a struggle for the 1.5 or second generation of the any immigrant, not only Asian, but any immigrant. So yeah, I appreciate sharing your experiences. How about you, Christina? What do you think? And how do you manage to face it life or more multiple faces face life?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear you when, you know, you were speaking to how the obstacles and barriers that you face as maybe being second generation or American born are definitely different in ways that I haven't had to, you know, experience as someone who's not first generation or who isn't an immigrant who moved here in my lifetime. I think that's why for me assimilation is definitely an issue, because when you're up against these ideals that are projected onto you, these standards or ways of looking, of being, of living, of thinking, you're, I think, you're confronting those things constantly. And I know for myself, like, I'm not a Japanese person who speaks Japanese fluently. Like, I can understand it. And, it's very much that second generation sort of dynamic where I grew up with it being spoken to me, but I would answer in English. And that's such an illustration, I think, of the struggle that comes with trying to hold on to that which makes you other and finding the beauty in that. And I think assimilation speaks to that struggle to see that beauty, because I know at times my own self-shame or just feeling self-conscious of being viewed as something other, it stems from not wanting to be ostracized or alienated from my community of people. But I think also as time has gone by, and I'm kind of understanding how identity works, how discourse around race is, how that speaks to a much larger problem in the States and in the Western world. And learning more about those nuances have definitely allowed me to step into my own identity in ways that are different and more forgiving. Because I think we, as Dr. Gills always says in the classes I've taken with her, there are no such things as minorities. We're not minorities. It's a system that attempts to place us in positions of minority. And so I think a lot of the change is internal in terms of thinking about what we've learned to dislike about ourselves and learning to embrace things that are unique to our cultures. And while also acknowledging, I know for myself as a Japanese person, I benefit a lot from different types of privilege that coming from a culture that has imperialized a good chunk of Asia. And that history is not acknowledged. And my life here is certainly, I have benefited from that legacy in some way that I want to continue unpacking. But, there's a lot of tension there. And so I'm really grateful for these spaces to speak to those very real textured realities that we all share. Nabi, what do you feel about this?
Thank you both for sharing your different perspectives as a first generation immigrant and you, Christina, a second generation immigrant. There's that I definitely identify with as a 1.5 generation, with Emma being like, well, it's like this here. And then with Christina, you mentioned about that struggle to balance both and just the different factors that comes with it. And so for me, balancing it is definitely hard because I really feel like I'm in between, and also I think it also may have come with age, how I'm like, am I thinking for myself as Nabi, or I'm thinking like my parents who are first generation. And so that has also really became a really big part of my struggle. And in my undergrad, I kind of wanted to focus more on to exploring my Filipino American identity. And it was really difficult because looking for resources, I didn't know where to find them. I know I could only read, about different experiences, but sometimes I could identify with them, sometimes I don't. What has really helped for me, there are some in the books, but I really mostly found kind of like a relatedness to videos online, podcasts, and being part of groups like with a small group that we just created here with Emma and Christina. And also I'm at at school, there is the Asian student group and counselors of color. And that's when I really found that community where I feel like I can be myself and hear other like real stories that, oh, it's just not me struggling. And it's kind of like, yeah, like kind of like, okay, well, it makes you feel better to hear people's struggles, but there is some power in it to be like, oh, I'm not alone in this, so I can get through the other things that are happening in my life. So yeah, and I kind of touch a little bit of it talking about the groups that I'm a part of here at Antioch. And so I'm curious for all of us if we could share on like, how has our experience been like as AAPI students here at Antioch? I could go a little bit first since I mentioned a little bit about being parts of groups, and I found that really helpful. And also I really found it valuable to have BIPOC professors. I feel like I'm heard. I feel that I am very much included, and there's more diversity in the readings. And what I noticed is that I just feel more engaged. I'm not quite sure what they really are doing that I'm more engaged, but maybe I just maybe see myself in them as a person of color. I don't think I have one that is Filipino, but just that relatedness to being a BIPOC has been really helpful for me. And I've also have white professors who I've learned that they collaborate with professors of color and can really see how they bring that in into the classroom, in which I feel like there is more diversity in the things that we are discussing in classes, which I find really helpful in my own understanding and how I can be more myself as a person of color in the classrooms. What about you, Christina?
I definitely, I feel like being at Antioch has been such an eye-opening experience for me. It's been a transformative experience for so many reasons, but I definitely, who I am in this moment is definitely, an amalgamation of so many of the words and actions of folks who, teach at Antioch, Rosa Garza Marino, David Tripp, Dr. Gills, Jane Paul. There are so many professors who have really valued the importance of reflection, of seeing yourself reflected in the media or the material that you consume, but also stressing the importance of really trying to unpack and challenge certain ideas that we've always sort of taken as an objective truth. I know that for myself as a person of color, and specifically as a Japanese American, so many of the freedoms that I enjoy, the lens through which I understand certain things have been forged by Black and brown folks. Like in so much of the civil rights movement, that led to privileges and rights that folks of color have been able to benefit from. And my education is something that I've tried to really ground in those movements. I know that even just historically, just like the Third World Liberation Front, kind of opened the doors for ethnic studies in schools, and certain things that resulted from the words of like Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. Those things have definitely informed how I view justice and equality and equity, more importantly. So those things have, and also even with that in mind, I've only had one professor that was a Japanese woman, and that was a life-changing experience. Being able to reference things in my culture or debunk certain arguments that pathologize behavior that doesn't need to be pathologized. Those things are so important, I think, especially for those of us going into the mental health field. So, that's just the tip of the iceberg for me. But there's, as this conversation is speaking to, there's just so much more to us. Yeah. Nabi, how do you feel that and Emma, what has that been like for you?
Thank you for sharing your experiences, Nabi and Christina. I know we are talking about our experience at NTL, but I really want to reverse our conversation a little bit, because I think it is important to point it out. Christina, you shared about like the Japanese colonialism, and I think it is really important to also to acknowledge there's nuances among the minority group, and especially among the Asian group too, because sometimes I felt like because we just have same skin color, or because we can umbrella under the distant Asian, automatically people assumes that we can be like united or without any quarrel or any struggle between us. But that's not true. And so many times I try to point that out, like there's struggles between minority group too. And we need to, as a minority group, we need to talk about this to be true ally. Otherwise, it is just a superficial thing. Because of just to have some more power, we just united momentarily. But can it be this partnership? Can we be handed out to generation? Unless we really talked about among us and really try to process what we have. Unless we do that, it will be really hard for us to be a true allies and true partners. So I know it is really hard for you, Christina, to talk about those things. So I really appreciate you bringing it up and then share that here. And also, I really appreciate what you shared, Nabi, about like the kind of how like having the BIPOC professors were like in your classes like lit up. It is the same with you, Christina, too. And for me, I think I struggled to find resources to understand not specifically like Asian like population. No, not specifically like Korean population, but even for Asian population, like it was the same thing for me. It was really hard for me to find the resources. And the resources that I could find was like many of them written by like traditional like academic population, which is white middle-class people, like using their lens to analyze like whatever Asian group or whatever population they want to like learn more. And many times like those resources were like, that's what they're interested in, but that's not really like what those targeted populations are interested in or what they think. And many times they use their lens to analyze that, but they do not really ask like what they think or what they want, what they need. So yeah, that was my experience too, Nabi. And also sometimes I feel like I have to work like 3 times more than my white peer. First, what I'm learning is based on the majority culture. And I have to digest it to understand myself and to understand the major population. and then to apply to my population, my people. And then I try to find the resources, but I cannot find it. I want to ask somebody, but there's usually not really a person I felt like I can reach out for this specific topics about like Asian community or or Korean community. So as Christina shared, like studying at Antioch was eye-opener for me, and it has been like a safe place for me to explore about myself and about the racism and the power struggle and like how to dialogue and why the dialogue is so important. However, I feel like Antioch can be a little bit too more for Asian students and other minority group, especially like maybe Hispanic community. The classes can be centered a little bit more. The classroom discussion can be like centered more about those minority groups rather than like only like black community, which is very important. But at the same time, I think NTO can be doing a little bit more, and I will really appreciate that. Yeah, and
thank you for sharing, Emma. Like you and Christina always bring up so many points, and I'm like, I can add more. There's just so many things to really say, you know, and I think it really aligns with our title being, you know, the messiness of AAPI. And if I can cover what's in my head, I'm just gonna talk for a little bit. Just when Emma was describing about kind of the lack of dialogue, what was something that was coming up to mind is also recognizing the preparedness of the individual, of the readiness to move forward with certain conversations. You know, there's a lot of healing that needs to happen for a person or a group, that for them to be able to have those dialogues. And I know for myself, I had so many things I know I'm struggling about, but I couldn't even find the words. And having, I didn't think I would be emotional, but having professors, peers who look at you and ask you, like, what do you think, you know? And also respecting your pace on when you're ready to talk and what is it that you want to know. And so I'm really grateful for my peers that were there for me, and the professors who have reached out and has seen like struggles of not only me, but also my other peers who may be experiencing it, and they were just not saying it because they don't know what words to say and who to even reach out to. So I'd just like to put that out.
Thank you so much, Nabi. And I also noticed the time. So I encourage the audience, please leave your chat or your questions so that we can answer your comments. In the meantime, we will have the conversationalists cover a few more points. Okay, how about we'll cover one more points and then we go to the question. Should we do that? Okay, so
and I just wanted to say something really quickly. You know, Nabi, I've only gotten to know you within the past few weeks, but it's been, and Emma as well, it's been such a wonderful experience, because I think as a result of my own process, I don't have nearly as many friends who are, you know, Asian diaspora as I would like. And I know that comes from my own struggle to understand like where I fit and everything, or whether or not I even want to fit or not. but I also just, I just appreciate your vulnerability, because it is, when we're thinking about our own experiences, there is so much loneliness and isolation that comes from feeling like you're not part of a community. And, I just also, Emma, I just wanted to, acknowledge like what you had said about where Antioch could afford to improve their studies. And I definitely second that. I think, the point of an education is to expand the ways that we understand ourselves and others. And if we're not including the voices of folks who are different than us, then we're not going to do that. We're only just going to perpetuate the same things. But I also do want to offer like a slight pushback on the fact that conversations are grounded in Black and white issues. Like I do feel that, as I'd mentioned, I think when folks of color, specifically immigrants, when we're navigating life in the States, I think it can be easy to forget to contextualize that our experiences in a country that is founded on a lot of problematic things. And I think for myself, the root of racism is anti-Blackness. And so if we're not having the conversations that dissect these dynamics that occur, that, exist in the States, that burden all of us, and we're not recognizing that, injustice for one is injustice somewhere is injustice anywhere. And I think a place to start, I think it does need to, those conversations do need to be central. Like the struggles that Black folks face, I think, are central to so many of these issues. And I just think that part of, so I just wanted to offer that pushback, that maybe it's about kind of reframing that. Not that, how you feel is invalid, but I think it's important to acknowledge the context in which these things happen.
Thank you, Christina. And allow me to interject is that I really encourage students of AAPI or any we consider minority, is that sometimes we can't think too much. Just assume that you're part of the group. That's what I typically do. If I think about whether my colleagues or my classmates include me as one of them or not, then it can be too complicated. So therefore, I just typically don't think about it, and I just assume that David likes me. I assume Elaine likes me. And believe it or not, particularly at Antioch, most of the time you're right. Most of the time you're right. So that makes life a lot easier. And sometimes if you feel that you feel left out, then pull them out and have a conversation with them. I like to get to know you. I mean, how do you see me as being Asian? Do you feel that I'm part of your group? Just ask them sometimes. I know it's hard. It's not from our culture. Our culture is that we take things what it is and we are quiet. We don't ask questions. We're very good role model. We don't cause any wave, right? We're taught you don't cause any wave. I remember that when I was a kid, I was told that, Anna, you're not supposed to ask too many questions. You ask too many questions. But here is that I think that the best of both worlds, we are now in America, so we can ask a lot of questions. So please feel free to reach out to your faculty, to your classmates, and don't feel alone, seriously. I mean, if you're in Antioch, you're feeling alone, then you probably are overseeing a lot of people who want to build a relationship with you, okay? Because most of the Antiochians, I can't say everyone, but most of us who are here, studying here or teaching here, we're curious about all groups. We emphasize on equity and inclusiveness. Okay, so I noticed that it's 4:48 now. How about we will stop here and handle a question? I think there's a question from, and Asa, are you going to pick up a question, or should I do the questions?
I think, why don't you go ahead if you'd like. I can jump in if you.
I'm never very good in picking up the question. You see that I'm typically very quiet and messy.
Well, we had there were a couple. There was a comment from Jen, not as much a question, but appreciating.
Yeah.
And then Christine.
Yeah, Christina
and Rosa had questions. Christine, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I was making food, so my camera's off. I first just want to really appreciate that all of you brought in the nuances of like how deep Asian history is and how in general it gets addressed as an entire monolith when it is like so incredibly nuanced. And then I guess in alignment with that like overgeneralization, I was getting curious about how your experiences as an immigrant, like 1.5 generation or child of immigrants, like how the model minority myth has impacted each of you, like specifically, and if we feel like when we talk about social justice, like is it even possible to separate that from our experiences?
Nabi, Emma, did you want to go first? Okay.
Emma? You can go first. No, you can go first, Christina.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, thank you, Christine, for that question. I really appreciate it. Because I definitely think that, you know, and as you commented, you know, something that's it's a problematic phrase because it speaks again to the ways in which you know, like European settler colonialism has rippled throughout our history. And I think that when Asian folks were considered a model minority, that is to the benefit of white supremacy. And it's not, you know, and even, but what's been really difficult is that it's, you know, as an Asian person, you benefit from that moniker because if you're considered more smart or more capable, then doors open for you. But as is the case with most of these movements or monikers, they are to the detriment of folks who are not Asian. And that has resulted in Black and brown folks specifically being further marginalized in institutions where their voices need to be centered. And I think that I know for myself that I internalized some of those ideas in ways that were anti-Black and were racist. You know, obviously that has been a process I've tried to unlearn, as I think any of us living in the States are learning to unpack and really sit with the reality of whatever racism we've internalized. But I know for myself, there's a lot of tension, I think, generationally within Asian communities when it comes to the model minority myth, because if you are seen in good favor by by a power structure, then that does mean survival. But I think also the more I've learned about movements of liberation and about equity, that benefit or that survival is not worth celebrating if it's at the cost of other folks. And I think, though, that I think there are a lot of divides within Asian communities to really deconstruct those ideas and to not lean on them or to acknowledge that they're a mechanism of division, not unification. So yeah, Nabi and Emma, I wonder what you think.
Emma or Nabi, you have any comments? Go ahead, and afterwards we'd like to invite Kyle to be requested to share. So maybe after Emma.
I think, yeah, that's a good, really good point. I think even among the immigrants, it's really different, like how, like their thoughts and like in what context they come to the United States. You know, like immigrants who came from like first wave of immigration and me is different. and the immigrants who came here like through the third wave of immigration and who are coming very recently with a lot of resource and knowledge and established social status, it's totally different. So as Christina mentioned, I think even among the immigrant, there's a different nuances and different contexts. So for some folks, for some immigrants, it is the survivor is the first thing. And then the model minority, yeah, definitely it's gonna work for them and maybe they need them. So I don't know. I don't think there's only one right answer to that question, but that's why I brought up it is really important, like we process it together through like dialogue, not only saying one way is the right, the other way is not right, because depending on where you're coming from, it can be different issues. So.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, Kyle, you would like to share some of your comments? Please go ahead.
Hi, Kyle. I'm second generation Chinese American mixed. I just want to speak to, so first of all, thank you to everyone who shared, and thank you to everyone who's had the space. Special thanks to David Tripp, Dr. Gills, Mihi, Al, Aaron Nass, teachers and administration who supported me in my experience. I completed my undergrad at Antioch in Los Angeles, and I'm in the master's program right now. I just want to claim the conflict and the anger that is in me that has been bubbling up, and that I don't really have the space for support to process and experience. The mixed messaging of submission and to be docile and to keep my head low to survive, that is an issue for me, because that is what I was told by my mother, and that was a pathway to assimilation that was required for our physical safety. And even in this time, I find myself speaking to other students, and I recognize within myself the shaking in my voice and the inability to stand up directly and speak directly to the privilege that's in the room or the issues that are coming up. There was a moment the other week where essentially in class, privilege was leveraged against my point, and I was very angry about it, and I wanted to make the point afterwards that the privilege could have been leveraged to include my point, and the exception that I was trying to include could have been to include myself and any other perspectives to say, hey, that's a great point. Why don't we just allow Kyle to do that, or allow other students who are experiencing that to do that? And this all comes at a time where I'm one of the most brown people in the classroom, which is ridiculous. And we're processing about white privilege and what, and the questions of that it brings up in discomfort. And it's like, well, first of all, there's no Black women in this room to speak. And there's a reason to that. And I was speaking on how class and race and gender and sexuality and all these compounding forms of oppression prevent us from being able to participate. And I'm sitting there trying to explain as well that, like, I've paid to be here as a student, and yet my experience is being extracted for the education of this predominantly white class who is uncomfortable and doesn't want to speak to me and is scared because I'm saying the things that I am. And it's just disappointing, and it's frustrating. And I appreciate everyone here who's been able to educate in such a calm and fashionable way. That's much, I really sincerely hope to be able to do that. And I just haven't been able to do that in my experience and in my program. So I want to thank everyone here for hearing me out and supporting me.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. I see the Mihi has a hand.
I think Rosa was ahead of me though.
Yeah, Rosa has a point, but
Mihi, you are relating to the current conversation. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just really wanted to give a hug out to Kyle. Thank you for speaking. Thank you to all of the student speakers. I wanted to say a couple things. One, which is, I think there's also a colonialized, westernized view of certain of those stereotypes, Kyle, right? So there's also a part of quiet, being seen as a position of weakness, and it doesn't have to be, right? I think that a presumption that being reserved, having that kind of humility is a sign of weakness. And I really want to underscore how it's not, that there's a bias in our Western culture about, a lot of things that are maybe contrary to traditional Asian Far Eastern kind of culture, about appearing happy, appearing animated, being outgoing, reaching out. All of those things are biases that we don't have to be led by and forced into. And so I just wanted to underscore that sense of where we can find other ways to embrace kind of what our culture has brought and taught us. So I really wanted to reach out to you and just kind of send you some strength on that and to support you on that. And then I also wanted to say, I feel it's important for Asian groups to also acknowledge the colonial aspects that exist within Asian cultures, right? And so my background is Malaysian, Chinese, Korean, and Thai. And my mother lived under British, Thai, Japanese, all of those kinds of situations. And I think that's another barrier to some of the conversations that we can have, and how important it is that we don't learn a lot about Asian history, particularly actually, I think contemporary Asian history, that we are, people get hung up on sort of this dynasty and that dynasty. This is amazing. Look at the porcelain, whatever, look at the Great Wall. And maybe recent history, looking at recent conflicts and looking at Myanmar or the Korean War, those kinds of things. But there's a period of sort of that colonial history in which there's a lot of intersection of these different cultures that I think would be really important for us to talk about, right? We're so enmeshed in our own particular histories. And I see that, I hear folks calling for that idea of more learning at Antioch and other places about that. And I think those are places where we could step into that. I don't think there's a lot of those, unless you're a Far East Asian Studies major at UCLA or someplace, that we have in more general conversations. And I'll also just throw out a challenge to all of you students, which is when we offer those classes, please come take those. We have this conversation all the time. Dr. Gills teaches amazing classes, and she has these little groups of students, that we offer this Dia de los Muertos thing. We have a little group of folks there. So we really want to offer those classes, and we really ask you to support those classes when we put them out there, that we know you love your psychology classes, but come show up for those as well.
Okay, Christina, I think you would like to add to respond to Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle, it's so nice to hear your voice in this space, having been in classes with you. And I just really want to validate and hold space for your anger and for those experiences you've had, because in my own ways, well, at first, I just really appreciate your willingness to share that, because, as we've kind of learned, like anger can be a scary emotion to feel, let alone express to a bunch of people, especially in an institution where maybe that anger isn't usually welcome. And so I honestly, as someone who has also internalized some of those ways of being that are kind of restrictive, like being quiet or not making waves, I think part of how I relate to, being somebody who's Japanese diaspora and being an American is really trying to lean hard into that anger. Even though it's not always the most pleasant to be around, I think your anger is something that you deserve to feel and express. And oftentimes, if you are considered a danger to somebody or an idea, it's because you have something to say, and that your ideas are probably a threat to those institutions that need to be deconstructed. So, as someone who will hopefully be joining you all in the MAP program, I'm looking forward to also bringing my anger too. So, and sitting in solidarity with that. But yeah.
Okay, I think it's David.
I didn't know if you were going to wrap up or not. Great conversation. I don't want to put the tap the brakes on this. It is 5 o'clock, so we formally end at 5, but we informally keep going. So if you can hang out, and continue the conversation for another 10, 15, 20 minutes, that would be great. If you have to go, you have to go. Great turnout today. Wonderful conversation. Please consider returning next week for a great conversation on the work of Gloria Anzaldúa. Let's keep the conversation rolling along.
Okay, any other comments on the last topic? Wonderful. I mean, we're getting into the messiness, so that's good.
I know Rosa had a comment, I think.
Yeah. Rosa, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Well, now it is, I was thinking about language as the tool that we use to articulate our identities. So it's such a powerful component of culture and identity formation. And I was thinking about this when you think we're resisting the monolithic version of one identity, that's the one you will describe so wonderfully today. All the emotions that can trigger when it's assumed to be either one or another. And I was thinking about the literal role, the way you navigate this comparison that could be messy, very messy, between the native language and the transformed version of that language once is part of a larger cultural context that is not what is considered the original, right? All this dichotomy between the original and the transform stuff like that. So and I was thinking about that because you have these interesting experiences, Emma coming like an immigrant, defining yourself as an immigrant, and Nabi already here, aware of all these colonization layers, Christina as well. So I just wonder if you want to comment on that, or or you keep moving because you're bringing so many interesting stuff that.
I think language is very important. My first language is Aklanon, which is one of the dialects in the Philippines. And so I grew up the first 10 years in the Philippines and then moved to Saipan. And that's when we had English subject in the Philippines, but we don't speak it like all the time. So I had to learn how to speak in English and speak and write in English. And it hasn't been really a struggle until I came to undergrad. And I remember going to my advisor and I said, I don't know if it's just me, but I know those words that they're saying, but together, I don't understand them. I don't know how to make sense out of them. And she has shared, her name was Lynn Danak, and she shared that she has also experienced that in her doctorate program, and also had a classmate that shared the same thoughts about if that some people who in which English is their second language do have struggle sometimes understanding concepts when it's in a much deeper perspective. And so that helped me kind of sit back and really acknowledge that that's a thing. It's not just me, but definitely there's a lot of struggle. I think Emma was mentioning how you get this information, then you try to apply it in your culture and in your language. So there's so many layers. And then I would have to spend some extra time to go do my own research about it so I can understand it better, because I couldn't understand it at the very moment in the classroom. So those are one of the struggles that I experienced in related to language and having English as my second language.
Oh my God, I still struggle. You guys saw, I do not speak still perfect. I do not speak perfect language still. And that's a lot of struggle for me. I came to the state as an adult in my 20s, knowing zero English. I knew alphabet, but I didn't not know how to speak it. So I had to really start from the scratch. And it was a lot of struggle. And as Nabi shared, I can understand the words, but sometimes when there's cultural joke or a cultural, if they talk about the show, TV show or whatever, I'm oh, everybody's laughing, but I cannot laugh because that's a lie. Yeah, so I still struggle. And I found like American culture has like so value on like how you give speech in front of many people. Like you have to sound really smart, and like, I don't know, public speaking is a big thing here. And then depend on how you speak, like people assume that like how much you know and how much you're smart. So it's still a struggle for me. And sometimes like the class phase is too fast. So I'm thinking about like what I know, and then the other student already talked about it. And I like unwillingly become a quiet student because I cannot catch up the speed. So yeah, and yeah, I think pretty much that. And yeah, and just to depend, and also depend on where you're coming from. Like there's some European student, even though they have like accent, like they can speak perfect English, but like from my country or from China or Japan, like grammar and everything is totally different. Than we speak a words in a like different words order and stuff. Then I have to like think a lot about, and then like thinking about like not being embarrassed in front of like people or in a classroom. So I still struggle a lot, and what I did today is kind of miracle.
And Emma, thank you so much for going into that direction. And I confused you guys with my question, because I was so excited about talking about language. But I was thinking about native language. When you hear Korean, do you recognize it? It's like when I hear Spanish here, I sometimes don't recognize it. But what does it mean, recognizing the language that you consider native and once it's transformed here? So I was wondering about that kind of navigation, because can be a tool for alienating others, can be a tool for allyships. It's just more embracing the transformation, or just, is navigating that encounter with something that we don't recognize.
I still don't get it. So are you asking like when I hear other people speaking in Korean, that makes me uncomfortable, or that I like it?
The version of Korean that you might hear in the US? That's what I mean. The comparison between the version of Korean that you can hear here and compared to the one that you thought you knew. That's what I meant. But I don't know if that is. I see. Yeah.
I think I do not pick any difference. Like maybe like, there's a like new slangs that new generation uses, or like that kind of new terms. Sometimes I don't get it, but most of the time I just understand 100%. So I don't know for other languages, there's any like that kind of evolution in their language happened when they, moved to here, but not for Korean.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry for misunderstanding.
No. It was me confusing you guys. So well, all my achievement was confusing.
And I think,
yeah. Go ahead, Nabi.
Well, I think it's a great example of like, I did see the question written and I was like, what? And then when you ask, I said, I guess I just use the keywords and be like, I'll answer it from that perspective. So even sometimes the wordings is a struggle with conversations, or even now that they're written and you have also said it. So I think it's a good example of like how it can get lost in translation sometimes. But with your question, with the Filipino language, we have about over 1,000 dialects. And so the main one is Tagalog. And so I understand Tagalog, and there are deeper words that I don't understand, but I can generally speak and understand Tagalog. And as I mentioned, my dialect is Aklanon. So they're all different. And so if somebody is speaking another dialect, I wouldn't understand it. I can get like understand like maybe words, but I won't get the full sentence of somebody. So sometimes I could hear like, oh, that's like a Filipino word, but then the rest of what they're saying, I may not understand unless they're talking in Tagalog. And I'm like, oh, that's Filipino. And to say, I think you mentioned about what does that make us feel like, do we feel more included or isolated? I think if I hear somebody who speaks like specifically Tagalog, I feel joyful to hear like, oh, somebody is here that is, from the Philippines. And so it's nice to hear that, because I live here in Seattle. I don't have family here, and friends that I have live outside of Seattle. And so to hear that around here brings me joy.
Thank you guys.
Any other comments from the other conversationalists or from the audience? My language is Cantonese, and I find that Cantonese is a very fast-growing and fast-changing language. So now that when I hear the young people talk, not the young people, but even people of our age, when they speak Cantonese, they constantly have new slangs that I don't understand. So therefore, my friends from Hong Kong may send me a text, and they were all laughing back and forth, and I didn't know a clue what they're talking about. They could be poking fun of a politician who just made a comment, or they can say about a movie, but I'm totally out of it. So therefore, the language is that I can only do the basics. And funny enough is that when people see me and they see my last name, Kwong, then they typically say, oh, Chinese, right? And then they will start speaking Mandarin to me. But I'm actually from Hong Kong, which was a British colony. So I never learned Mandarin. I actually learned English and Cantonese. So when they started talking with me, I will look at them, and then I would say, can you speak slower? And it's funny that they would ask me, are you Chinese? And I would say, yes, I'm Chinese. And the Chinese will tell me, no, you're not Chinese. I'm overseas Chinese. Okay, all right, yeah, whatever you say, okay? So it is, we have a lot of confusion, a lot of messiness in this. Is that I typically see this as, I don't take it too seriously. Anyway, yes, go ahead. I heard someone.
No, I had my feeble hand up, and I had the wrong emoji up. But I just wanted to ask the panelists, because Anna, you just shared, your past experiences. But I don't want to use the I word, but I'll call them clumsy. When some clumsy people approach you and they assume everyone is Chinese or Japanese, how do you respond to them? Because I know that that's an ongoing problem, an age-old problem. How do you handle those situations when those not so clever people approach you?
We had a conversation when we were discussing it. Nabi, Christina, Emma, anyone of you want to respond? We talked about it, right?
Sure. Thank you, Clarence, for your question. And also, Nabi, Emma, and Anna for your experiences with language. I know for myself, and I think this kind of ties into that experience as well, where when I do see, Japanese is not, after my grandma passed away, Japanese is no longer like the dominant language in my family. If anything, it's Spanish. My stepdad is Mexican. So I feel like if anything at this point, I probably can speak and understand Spanish better than I can understand Japanese. So that is always an interesting thing when I encounter Japanese family, because I think to be Japanese but not be fluent in it has its own stigma. And I think that goes for many folks who are immigrants or who, stem from ethnic groups that have their own native language. And that's part of, I think, my own process of learning and unlearning things has come from sometimes feeling like I'm not a complete or real Asian person for not speaking a language fluently. But I also, and it's funny that when I am confused for other ethnicities, because it's like, well, I can't even speak the language fluently, but I'm still being like mistaken for somebody else. I think it depends on the context. I think when I travel globally, that happens a lot more than it does when I'm even here. And there are good and bad things with that. I think if someone feels that they understand your culture and they entitle themselves to speaking to your culture, that's uncomfortable. But I think also as like a Japanese person, I'm either asked about like manga, like cars and Pearl Harbor. So like, it's, not like the most fun combination of things, but so I think depending on who the question is coming from and what it's in reference to, if I feel kind of like it's coming from a place of intolerance, then I think it's a little easier for me to lean into some of that anger and just, but even then it's difficult to be combative, even if I want to, honestly, because I would rather just sort of be like, if you don't know, then why start now kind of thing. But then at the same time, I feel if it's not coming from a place that feels threatening to me, then I'm, ignorance is something I think it speaks to what we have yet to learn. And if I encounter that ignorance in a way that doesn't feel threatening to my personhood, then it's a dialogue that I'm happy to be part of.
I agree with Christina. It's depend on like how the other party is approaching me. So to be honest, when I moved to the state, I had a really hard time to distinguish like white faces. Like they all look the same. So from my personal experience, like sometimes I can see why people are doing that. But it's definitely, as Christina shared, it's depend on the context. Like, for example, like at one point, like a lot of Chinese immigrant population grow like in this area, Seattle area. And when I go to shopping, like the people who like, I don't know the words, but like people try to like lure people to their shop, right? And that if they see Asian people, they will like say like ni hao, like and then that context, that's kind of, I felt really attacked and I didn't like it because that's not from like curiosity or they want to have a like conversation or even relationship with me, but it's more like they're seeing me as money. So in that case, like I would completely ignore, or my friend who was Japanese and she was like really angry and then said to him at the face, I'm not Chinese, I'm Japanese. Yeah, so definitely it's depend on the context, but sometimes I get annoyed, like what people brings to me or some other Asian people, like the topics they want to talk to them about is so stereotypical. Then in those contexts, I know they're coming from good intention, but still I personally annoyed by that. But most of the time I understand where they're coming from. So it's depends on the context for me.
Thank you, Emma. I see Stephanie has your hand up. Stephanie, welcome to the floor.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone, so much for this conversation. I've been looking forward to this ever since I saw that it was scheduled. I am Vietnamese American, and with my first and second language, it was Vietnamese and Mandarin. And my third language was English. I think I have some mastery over it now. And unfortunately, I similar to your experience, Christina, I understand a lot of Vietnamese. I've forgotten all the Mandarin. I understand a lot of Vietnamese, but I can't say that I speak it fluently to any kind of like college level or anything like that. With Vietnamese culture, it's quite interesting for me because my family is from South Vietnam. And so within our own country, there's a difference between northern and southern Vietnamese speaking styles. And you know, when I've met other Vietnamese people here in the United States and speak Vietnamese, they say, "Oh, I can tell right away you're from the South." I don't know if that's a dig or if that's not a dig or if it's complimentary or I don't know. So, and then my Vietnamese isn't good enough to say, well, you know, to understand those nuances. I can say, being a staff member at Antioch, I did, to Clarence, are you still here? To Clarence's question, I did have
Still here.
Yes, to your question, my own personal experience being Asian American here at Antioch has been quite interesting. It's been a entire spectrum of things, but something that I remember very clearly years ago, a white faculty person asked me how to pronounce a Korean student's name. And I'm like, I don't know, dear, I'm not Korean, and nor do I speak Korean. So that was shocking to me because this person taught in the MACP program. But you know, it didn't anger me because I knew her from working with her, and I knew there wasn't ill intent in that question. It was, I think she was, you know, grasping at straws. Somebody help me with this name that I'm gonna need to pronounce. And so it didn't make me angry, but definitely, you know, I share that story to say that we still have a long way to go. I think this is going to be a lifelong learning process for all of us. And then I have other colleagues. I'm just going to say, I'm going to call her out, Christine Forte, Dr. Christine Forte. I just treasure my relationship with her because every single year, she is always wishing me Happy Lunar New Year. And she is the very first person on the Antioch staff and faculty who does this every single year. So, you know, there's an entire spectrum of awareness in people's consciousness. And, you know, I try to come with, you know, not anger, but just recognizing that people are doing their best and trying their best. And yes, sometimes it gets burdensome to be the Asian staff member who has to explain things. And then I could also see it as a privilege. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. That's wonderful. Okay, we can see that it's 5:27. Any last comment? I'm so happy that this conversation goes very well, exceedingly well. One last point I would like to share that sometimes I go onto this website that shows someone who show their expertise on how to distinguish the Chinese from the Japanese from the Koreans. I said, good job, good for you. I can't do it. And I think none of us can do it. It is so hard. My husband looks very, very much Japanese. So I actually have a family who all look Japanese. And whenever we are in Japan, when they don't speak Japanese, then the local Japanese are very upsetting because they say, why are you Japanese and you don't speak Japanese? That sometimes there will be an awkward moment, but after we explain it, then they're happy about it. So my conclusion is that don't make any conclusion. You have to check. We never know. I mean, I can't tell. So, and honestly, when I look at every one of you, there's no way I can tell where you're from or what generation you are. So I think probably that's the messiness of this topic, right? So thank you very much. Any last comments? Yeah.
And I just want to comment that in this business of living and navigating a multicultural global world where we are, is that blind spots are to be expected. And then how we respond to the blind spots is a choice. So we can, and I totally feel for you, Kyle, that you have encountered that, and it's just like emotional. You know, I have no more patience for this, right? And then, but if we can remember that it's a choice, that we can have a repertoire of responses. It can be an emotional roller coaster. It can be an opportunity to just like, let me, can I hear this? And then there are many ways to address that, and there's no formula. So that's the messiness of it. So I just wanted to address that.
And sometimes we have to be actually look at it with a sense of humor, right?
And to your point, Anna, I would say Joe Coy makes me laugh. I don't know if you guys know the Joe Coy, he's a comedian, and yeah, I love him. And he talks about ways to differentiate the Asian groups in just a really hysterical way. So
yeah.
And I think sometimes it's good to laugh.
I love to watch that too. And there are many other Asian comedians actually use a topic as part of the joke, and I like it. I like the sense of humor. Okay, thank you very much. I mean, it's 5:30 now. What a vibrant conversation, and definitely we are very grateful for the students, panelists, and also all the staff and the faculty and other students who actually pitch in. Definitely, we need a part 2 of this conversation. Okay.
Thank you, everybody. We didn't get to talk about food, but definitely, you know, every culture's food is really great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Emma, Christina, and Anna for making this possible, and the MCPT group. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening.